Hi, this is Tyler Blake with XO Whips again, and this week I'm gonna do a little, kind of a little tutorial and also just some general theory on crackers and different types and how to make some of them. I am going to adjust my camera just a little bit so y'all can see my hook. Excuse me. There we go. Sorry about that. Maybe I'll just see if I can take that out in editing. Okay, so I use several different kinds of materials for crackers. The demonstration this week is going to be with artificial sinew. But in the past I used a lot of baling twine, but when I started using the artificial sinew I just found that I liked it better. I also use Dyneema, and sometimes I mix the two together, and this week I'm just going to show you how to make one of my standard artificial sinew crackers, and while I'll be talking about some others, next week I'm going to start a two-part series on tapered crackers, so I'll show you how to make one of those completely out of artificial sinew. And I'm also going to show how to do one of the blended ones. I'm not sure which one I'll do first yet. I'll figure that out next week. So anyway, to go ahead and get started here, hopefully this color will show up on film. So this is how you make a cracker. This is the fastest way that I know of, other than having someone else do it. Ta-da! Okay, did everybody get that? That's great. I'll see y'all next week. Just kidding. Okay, so let me slow that down a bit. First off, there's just like, I would say with almost everything else in whip making, there's a lot of room for personal preference. I say almost because there's some things that are just bad, like binding transitions with electrical tape. But there's a lot of subjectivity. From the heel knot to the cracker, there's so much subjectivity with, weight and balance, and just, what people like. A whip that one person really likes a lot might, be very unappealing to the next person. So, I'm not saying that this is the only way to make crackers at all. I kind of like longer crackers. Some people like really short crackers. So you can take this method and apply it to whatever your preference is, okay? I start with about 60 inches, but that's about this. So I don't measure, this is close enough. And if I'm, sometimes I'll sit down and say, okay, I'm going to knock out 15 crackers. I'm just going zzz, zzz, zzz. So I don't need to measure everyone within the exact millimeter. Okay, so we will, and I like to do 2 knots because sometimes, like y'all saw when I was using the drill a minute ago, sometimes the knot will pull apart. Okay, so let me hold this up. Hopefully this shows up well against my mostly dark clothing. So I just do 2 overhand knots here, okay? So 1 and double it up. 2. And then pull that tight. So now I have a big loop, okay? So it doesn't matter which end, and if hopefully, well, maybe you can't see that actually. Let me put my leg back there. This little white thing right here is a hook. Okay, and I can't zoom in, so sorry about that. Anyway, I have a hook down here, and so one end goes on that, and in my drill here, I have another hook, and this is just a hook I got at the hardware store. It's got threads in it for putting in, you know, if you want to hang a little potted plant or something from your ceiling. This is probably a little weak for that, but you know, could be just about anything. So you want to have some tension on here, or it'll start to kink and twist. Like you'll have like a branch of twisting here and one down here and one going off that way. So you want to keep it under tension while you're doing this. And my completely scientific method for this is that I count to 7. Okay, so if you're using an electric drill, you might have a more powerful or a less powerful drill than me. So, or maybe you don't like them as tight, or you like them tighter than I do. So if you're gonna try this out, start with 7, go from there. If you don't have an electric drill, you can get those hand crank drills at the, you know, like at a craft store. That's still pretty fast. When I first started learning how to make whips, I was reading in the Ron Edwards book that the stockmen in Australia used to just clip a little bit of hair off their horse's tail or the mane, and they're sitting there twisting it in their teeth. And that would be so tedious. I mean, you know, I know we're spoiled in this day and age, but come on. So this is a lot faster, more convenient, especially for me. Every whip I sell gets 5 crackers, and that doesn't count the ones that are on falls. So if somebody orders an Exo whip from me, let's say it has a black thong and red and brown on the carapace, they get 2 falls in every color. So there's 6 falls, and each of those has a cracker, and then there's 11 crackers for that whip. If they ordered a match set, then they get 22 crackers. So, you know, I don't, it's not something I want to spend a lot of time to turn out one on. I want to be able to crank them out, but still have good quality. So, anyway, so here we go. And then you want to make sure you have a good grip on this when you pull it off the hook, because if you don't, because it's under tension now from that twist, it's going to want to pull and it'll kink up and you'll have to start over, and that's no fun. So, and then I'm going to remove the other end off of this hook here, and then what you need to do is secure that halfway between your 2 hands. So I'll put that right there on the hook and see how I have that. I bring the 2 ends together, and then this is pretty cool. These wheels don't roll very well, do they? No, they don't. Okay, so when I let this go, that will just twist up on its own. One of the things I like about artificial sinew is that it twists up slow. So sometimes when you're making a cracker, and I was actually kind of hoping this would happen so I could show you all this, but you know, sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. When you start to let it twist, you'll kind of like what I was saying earlier, you'll get like a little off branch where there's a part that wants to kink up here. Because these go slow, it gives you time to fix that, and you can just on this unsecured end, you can just kind of pinch it and run your finger up there, and most of that stuff will straighten out. So anyway, then you need to pull this. This is going to be your tassel here, your fluff. So you got to give yourself some room there. I'm going to get in a little bit closer, so hopefully y'all can see what I'm doing here. Okay. So I like to use, I believe it's called the blood knot in the Ron Edwards book. So I'm going to go, let me see. This is a little bit weird doing it like in a mirror image here. So I'm going to come up behind the cracker with my free end here, and I'm going to follow the direction of the twist. No, see, I'm doing it wrong because I'm trying to do it backwards. Let's do this. Okay. So now, the twist is going counterclockwise from top to bottom, let's say, from my perspective here. So I'm going to come up and behind, and then I'm going to follow that direction around once and twice. And then I'm just going to pull that down. Okay? And then you'll need to kind of cinch that tight. And then another thing that there's debate about is how long should the tassel be, and I kind of like that long because it just gives it room to wear, and I just I like the sound. So as you crack it, like right now that just looks like 2 strings, but that will fluff out. I should have had a gently used cracker ready to go, but trust me on that. That's part of the fun. You got to break it in. At first, it's not gonna, it's gonna be kind of a weird pop, but as this starts to break in, you'll get nice sharp cracks. And these artificial sinew crackers do produce nice sharp cracks. But that's not always a good thing, is it? So, like, if you're in your backyard and you have neighbors that hate you, or maybe they're just not fond of the sound of whip cracking, or let's say one of your neighbors has a dog that starts barking every time you go out in the backyard to practice, or you're in a public park. I've heard a lot of people talk about how they went to the park and they were practicing with the whips, and they were, they're being totally responsible. They're not, trying to intimidate or frighten anyone, and the cops show up because somebody thought there was gunfire, right? So that's where one of these comes in. My friend Robbie Amper over at the Whip Basics forum gave me the idea for this, and he calls them his neighborhood crackers. So if any of y'all have played musical instruments, you know that let's just use a guitar as an example. I'll say bass. Okay, so the low G string is the thickest string on there, and the high E is excuse me. The thicker string has a deeper sound. The thinner string has a higher sound. Same thing with the drum. You have a big drum and a little drum. They have a different pitch. So that's basic acoustics, that the size and tension of the object affect. And just, like if you're tuning a guitar, as you increase the tension, the pitch goes up. Okay? So these artificial sinew crackers are pretty dense, and they're under a good bit of tension. I purposely use a less dense, fluffy material. I think I made this one out of flat braid. You could use like a kind of a thicker baling twine, or whatever you want to, but I don't wind these as tight as I do the artificial sinew one, so that it's not under as much tension, and it's a thicker, fluffier material. So these make more of a light pop or even just a fluff sound. So you're still getting good practice, but you're not, irritating your neighbors or scaring people at the park and having the cops show up and all that. So that's a good idea to think about. But it's made the same way. Actually, I brought a black one because I wasn't sure how both of these would show up together, so I'll do them all three for the camera. And you can see that the white one, hopefully, is at least twice as thick as these. And look at the tassel there. So, and I would say it's a different principle with crackers than it is like in a musical instrument. Because with a musical instrument, we're talking about vibration, right? And I mean, even if you take a big stick and a little stick and hit them on a rock, they're going to have a different pitch because they vibrate different. This creates a sonic boom. So I don't know, when let's say a jet aircraft breaks the sound barrier, it sounds like an explosion, right? Huge sonic boom. When this breaks the sound barrier, it makes a nice crack. So maybe somebody out there who's a physicist can explain to us what's the difference. I would imagine it's a different principle than what dictates how musical instruments sound, but I would be curious if anybody out there could explain that in layman's terms, please. So anyway, that is it for crackers this week. Please tune in again next week and we'll start our tapered crackers series. And if y'all have any questions about that, please let me know. In case you're curious, a good place to get artificial sinew is from my friend Roy Partine over at whipnation.com. So that's it. Thanks for watching. I'll see y'all on the next one. Bye.